Welcome to the Men of Iron podcast, changing a culture one man at a time. At Men of Iron, we equip men and grow godly leaders through creating and sustaining one-to-one and micro-group mentorships. Go to menofiron.org for more info. Thanks for listening. Welcome to the show. It's the Men of Iron podcast, live from the MOI headquarters. It's Steve bringing it to you. Episode 32 is brought to you by Supply, a beautifully lit, clean, and modern co-working and event space. Go to supplymanheim.com for more info. I am pumped to introduce our special guest today, James Hall. James Hall of Restoring Heroes Project. His goal is to help men push back the darkness and fight passivity through biblical manhood. He is a husband and father of 3. James and his family reside in Springfield, Ohio. James, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Doing well, man. It's an honor to have you. What's going on out there in Springfield, Ohio?
Right now, so I don't.
Well, that kind of leads me into it, man. Just let the listeners, the viewers know, man, just a little bit more about James Hall.
Yeah, I'm just a man passionate about seeing restoring men to their proper place in the world, man. I think understand that they have permission to be leaders, to be providers and protectors, spiritual leaders of their home. So my goal is, in my way, to be as authentic as possible as I go through that journey. I am not an expert at this stuff. I'm working at it every day. Not an expert. I just, as I go through my journey, I like sharing. So that's the hero.
Yeah.
Real biblical management in a counterfeit world, bro.
I love it, man. I love your authenticity. That's one thing, as I've been following your journey here in the past few weeks, that's one thing that stands out is your authenticity, man. So I applaud you for that, for real. We need more men like yourself in this world.
Let's start. We got you too. So
I appreciate it, man. We're all working towards the same goal, right?
Right. Amen.
Yeah, amen. For those that don't know about Restoring Heroes Project, man, can you just give them, this is one thing that I love watching your videos and listening to your podcast. Can you just give us one of your intros, man? Your intros are the best. I just got to let you know that. You got to give the listeners a taste of it, man, so they can go check you out. Are you maybe you can't do it. He's like he's in the lunchroom or something.
Where I am is an undisclosed location inside the school, so I'm running. I start yelling.
All right. So maybe we just got to make all our viewers and listeners go check you out on YouTube and iTunes.
Oh, YouTube, iTunes, Google.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure they have all those links at the end of the podcast here. But we're gonna hit you with take 5 if you're ready for it before we get into the interview. You ready for take 5?
Oh, what is that?
I know he's got no clue. We're just gonna hit you with 5 fun questions. Get a little lightheartedness here to start the show.
Let's do it.
All right, brother. All right, take 5. Question number 1. Give us one of your favorite childhood moments.
One of my favorite childhood moments is sitting down, watching Thunderbird.
Nice.
I don't know why. Like old cartoons like that. So that's watch Saturday morning cartoons. One of my favorites.
Love it. All right, take 5. Question number 2. So, being in the podcast world, what is your go-to podcast these days?
My go-to podcast when I'm listening to right now, I'm listening to Ever Vigilant.
Okay.
And I don't listen to podcasts that often.
Okay.
I listen to audiobooks.
Yep.
So I go to Hoopla to get my audiobooks. I just got listening to The Lies Men Believe by Robert Wagner.
Okay. I gotta write that one down. All right. Question number 3. What album or song have you had on repeat lately?
Song. That's a hard one because I listen to music all the time. One album is a church in Texas called Adamant Believers Council.
Mm-hmm.
They just came out with an album on their website, exministries.com. So I've been listening to that album over and over again. It's a pretty good album.
Awesome. All right, question number 4. What's the best part about being a dad?
Okay, it's gonna sound cheesy, but you know when you come home and you've been gone all day, my kids still run to me
Mm,
and get like, "Daddy, Daddy's home" and stuff like that.
love it.
And they're like, my daughter's 12, my son is 7, and my other daughter, my youngest, is about to be 11 months,
Okay.
and she's jumping around and stuff like that. So that's the best part of one of the best parts of being a dad. Coming home from a hard day's of work, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like doing everybody else, and you have people excited to see you when you come home.
Yep. Yeah, I second that. Our daughter is 2, and there's not too much better in life than when she comes running to the front door to greet you, just screaming, "Daddy!" It's a good thing for sure.
Yeah, man.
All right, question number 5 for take 5 is what is you and your wife's go-to date night spot?
The movies.
Nice.
Uh, the movies, and may I add another one? She likes bowling.
Okay. She
We're
likes
not
bowling.
we're not even good at bowling. We just like going there just for the sake of throwing the balls down the gutter.
Uh-huh. Get the what do they call the bumpers out? Get those out maybe.
Right. So we can't gutter bowling. We just play. Started being like ping pong.
Oh, yeah, they're for the kids, right?
Right. Right. Yes. Let's keep it saying it for the kids.
Awesome, awesome, man. Well, you survived take 5 even though I didn't give you any pre-warning on it, so you did well, man.
That's good, man. I'm glad I survived it. I was scared.
I'd love to hear just a little more about you, James, a little bit about your faith journey and how you came to know the Lord.
Well, my beginning of my life has been really tumultuous. I had something um, catastrophic happen in my life when I was about 5 years old, which changed the course of who I was raised by. I was raised by my uncle and aunt um, because my mom was murdered and my dad was never around.
Hmm.
So I was raised by my uncle and aunt. So through my aunt, I was always in church. I being in something but never being touched by and changed. Um, and I was not a pretty good kid morally, if you compare yourself against other people. I kind of was a good kid, didn't get in trouble as much, besides the regular riffraff and playing too much in school. But I really didn't. I knew of God, but I really didn't fall in love with God to the point where I gave my life up for Him until I was about 18, 19 years old.
Hmm.
And through that, like it wasn't no. I can't remember the dates. I can't remember. No, some people know like felt God through the preaching of the pastor. Like I knew God. I knew I had to change my life.
Hmm.
So I just decided to cut off friends and run towards God with my girlfriend back then, but she's now my wife for 15 years. We just ran towards God together, um, and it's been a journey since then. Growing as a man, growing as a husband, then becoming a father, and then got to get rid of those boyhood ways. It's been a journey of sanctification since then.
Hmm. It's awesome, man. It's quite a story for sure. Just, I mean, obviously, kind of your childhood and growing up without a father, and even everything you went through with your mom. I'm sure Restoring Heroes project was birthed out of those experiences. Can you just tell us more about what Restoring Heroes project is, what you guys are up to, how it came about?
Restoring happens when men are not in the home, and it helped me realize that, like, I'm a comic book fan. I'm a big comic book movie nerd and all the other stuff, and helped me realize that be having fathers in the home and take care of the family like we're supposed to. Suicide rates go down, poverty rates go down,
Hmm.
teen pregnancy go down. Like it's all these things that goes away if we just stay there. Like men, we need to realize how much power that we have, and that God has created us to be a leader, to give
Hmm.
identity, to do these things. So it was kind of birthed out of that, where it was it was a it was a realization that being a man is nothing to be ashamed of.
Hmm.
Being a leader is nothing to be afraid of. God has given us permission and empowered us to do so if we lean on Him.
Yep.
So restoring heroes is about putting men back on the path towards Jesus Christ,
Hmm.
towards biblical manhood, to change their families, to change their lives, to change their bloodlines and their family trees.
Love that. It's needed. You talk a lot about biblical manhood and manhood in general is definitely a hot topic today. What is, in your opinion, what is biblical manhood, and how do we as Christian men, how do we practically live that out?
Biblical manhood, I think, is a submission of our own will to the will of the Lord. And what I mean by that practically is living the way God said.
Hmm.
And living as a man the way God says you ought to live. So when God says you need to be the spiritual leader of your household, well, you need to be the spiritual leader of your household. When you get in the Bible, you can find men going out to battle, going out to war, doing hard things and not avoiding the hard things. Anytime a man in the Bible avoided hard things, destruction happened.
Hmm.
If, Samson and Delilah, when Samson avoided confronting Delilah about her bugging him and vexing him in his spirit, and when he gave in to him, destruction happened. When David did not go to war that one time, he saw Bathsheba,
Hmm.
and destruction happened.
Yep.
Um, so anytime, so the biblical manhood is following the God has for us through the eyes of the Bible. Everything, even masculinity, all that stuff through the filter of the scriptures.
Hmm.
And basically, what I would say is being a biblical man is going to work every day. That's honoring God in your work and
Yep.
loving your work and doing it to the glory of God.
Hmm.
It's teaching your children about the Bible, not and imperfectly. You're doing it wrong. You're
Hmm.
messing up. You don't know that Malachi comes from Matthew. All that stuff. That's totally fine, but you're doing it anyway.
Hmm.
You praying with your wife, even though it's awkward and it feels funny. You
Hmm.
praying for your kids. Um, you being you understanding that your child needs to learn from you before they learn it from Sunday school.
Hmm.
So Sunday school is a reinforcement of what they do at home because Daddy teaches the Bible. So that's what I'll say. How you do that practically.
That's so good. Yeah, it reminds me of something a good friend of mine says often is God. You look at the history of the Bible, the stories of so many men and women, and God never gave anyone an assignment that wasn't hard.
Right,
You know, there
right.
he
You so
doesn't he doesn't he's not going to give you something easy to just sit back and
no,
kick up your feet
he's
and.
he was never in the even in the garden when
Hmm.
God created Adam. Like he created him and placed him right to work. Like Genesis 2 talks about it. He created them and put them to work in the garden to tend and subdue the land.
Hmm.
Uh, so it was never work. It was never supposed to be, um, or what God had for us is never supposed to be easy according to our flesh, but
Yep.
it's going to be beneficial for our
Hmm.
spirit.
Yep. Amen. We talk about this in what you are doing through Restoring Heroes Project. You're talking about fighting passivity through biblical manhood. So why are men so passive when it comes to being that spiritual leader, or even just a leader in general in their home?
I would say it's the Adam's curse, um, because of the Adam's curse, we think work is bad. Um, Even though in the Bible before the curse, God created man to work. Because of Adam's curse, we feel that doing hard work is a bad thing. No, doing hard work became laborious. It became a chore once we had the fall, which makes men avoid hard work always for the easy way. Um, Anytime we fall into sin, anytime we deal with the pornography thing or anything else, is always avoiding something hard for something easy.
Hmm.
When we fall into anger, it's avoiding dealing with the emotion for something easier.
Yep.
So because of the fall and because we need to continue to get renewed in the Holy Spirit, we love going for the easy route,
Yep.
the easy road, the path of least resistance.
Yep.
And even if we even if it's avoiding something good, like we could do something good to avoid something hard. Like we can go to the gym all the time to avoid being with our families
Hmm.
and understanding our families. We can use our families and being with our families to avoid growing with other men. So we can say, well, I just got to spend time with my family 7 days a week all the time, and you never get with other men. So it's always we have a tendency, and I know I have a tendency to always lean towards the path of least resistance.
Hmm. That's so good. Yeah, I think that's just inherent in men. Yeah, I think about something as simple as coming home from a long day of work and your wife just wants to sit and talk and have a conversation, and I think often as men we just kind of want to we just shut down when we get home. You know what I mean? We just shut down and we want to whether it's lay on the couch and watch TV or sit on our phones, and it's exactly what you're talking about, that path of least resistance. But yeah, I think God desires more for our marriages, more for our families, more for us as men, more for our relationships with God. So, man, that's so good.
It's not necessarily a bad thing to want to veg out. Sometimes it's good to veg out.
Yeah.
Uh, and there's good practices of decompressing before you go and before you leave, even get out the car to sit in the car and pray before you step out.
Mm,
Just all those things.
that's so
Uh,
good.
but we just got to take those steps to do those things.
Definitely. Amen. One of the first videos or on YouTube that I saw or that I watched of yours, James, was what type of I think it was called "What Type of Man Are You?"
Mm.
And you talked about, am I the type of man I would want my daughter to marry?
Oh yeah,
And
man, that's a hard bro.
am I the
Why would
type of
you bring
man I
that
would
up,
want
man?
my son to emulate? And man, whoo, that hits you like a ton of
You don't
bricks.
want this podcast to go well at all. You just want to bring up all the hard stuff right now.
That's what we're here for, man. We're not taking the path of least resistance today.
Oh, now you use my words against me. Oh, now you do the thing.
Oh, but man, having a 2-year-old daughter, man, that hit me like a ton of bricks. Because I mean, as you know, you have an 11-month-old, but I mean, as they grow from a baby to a toddler to a kid, man, do they soak up things like a sponge.
Yep.
And man, as she's gotten older here in this last year and a half, and she's watching and listening to everything I do, and everything my wife does, man, are the words you use and the actions you use so important. But can you just talk a little bit more about that video and your thoughts behind it?
But the whole point of the videos was to challenge men to step up their game when it comes to their spiritual life. To help them realize that the arrogance that we naturally put on things, we have a tendency to think just because we know a couple of scriptures, we know it better than the next guy, that
Mm,
we have everything all together and we have nothing else to learn. But it's to bring that that good conviction about when I'm going to pose that question, would you be satisfied with your daughter marrying a man with your prayer life, your
mm.
biblical, your strength, your courage, or whatever? It's to get men to really think about what they're doing and are they really all in God.
Hmm.
So that's
That's
it in a nutshell.
Love it, man. Yeah, that was like I said, when I watched that and listened to that video, man, it was like a smack in the face. I'm like, man, that's so good. It was such a good challenge to all man. So I thank you for that for sure. As we're celebrating Holy Week and we get ready for Good Friday and Easter, man, it's like, and it's not just because it's Holy Week, but as men, Jesus is that perfect example for us, for biblical manhood, for the type of leader and man we should be. He's, that perfect example of sacrificial leadership. Uh, and I think that's how, as men, we should be. We should serve others like Jesus. I know we talked a little bit about this already, but can you just give men what does it look like to be a sacrificial leader as a man?
I can I can say what it's not a little bit better to paint the picture. I don't think being a sacrificial man is you um, you're neglecting your mental health and your mental well-being for the sake of others.
Mm,
And what I mean by that, you get caught up in um, even the name sacrificial leadership and sacrificial love and all these things, and we neglect the fact that we need men to encourage us. We neglect the fact that we need time to recharge, and we need time away to do things. So we run ourselves ragged. I don't think sacrificial man leadership means a burnout on the things you need.
mm,
So in that vein, sacrificial manhood and sacrificial leadership means you doing what you have to do to make sure that you are first obeying the scriptures,
mhm,
and secondly, I feel that it's um, going going the path that you don't you don't feel like going,
mhm.
sacrificing your tendency for passivity,
Yep.
sacrificing the Adam gene in your DNA, sacrificing that for the sake of doing the hard thing and right thing and doing the righteous thing.
Mm.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I think I feel like the theme continues throughout this podcast, the path of least resistance. That might have to be the title.
Yeah, man, I like it.
You talked a lot about as men we need men in our corners. We need to do life with other men. Like we can't be on an island.
Yeah,
We can't do this on our own. At Men of Iron, we're all about mentorship. We're all about finding that guy in your life that's gonna hold you accountable. That's gonna challenge you, encourage you, and to help you be that man of God that God desires you to be. I would love to hear, James, as we wrap this up. Who are some men? Who are some mentors in your life who have helped you become the man you are today, and even now in your walk, who are helping you today?
okay. I would say my uncle, the man who raised me, the guy I call dad, definitely taught me. He's not a perfect man, but he
Mm,
definitely taught me hard work and build character. Did stuff like had me rake like all the leaves and stuff in the winter by myself while everybody else was in the house. And I asked him about that later in life. He was like, it was to build um, um, not not just character, but what did he say? Uh, it was, I told you to do something.
mm-hmm,
Are you going to be able to complete it without whining
hmm,
and complaining? And I
mm-hmm,
did. A shovel and snow, like he taught me those things. Then I have men in the world like my friend Craig. He's an older gentleman. Just his perspective on God and things is so different. And so like, and so it's like it's so different, man. It's really cool. Then like and the pastors I had along the way, the Pastor Scotts when I was younger, and then Pastor Ringer, and there's all these guys, and then now Pastor Greg. Um, and then I have virtual like mentors and people
mm-hmm,
I look up to, like Odie Bacham
mm-hmm,
or or not just Bodie Bacham, Francis Chan,
mm-hmm.
Matt Chandler, like those guys, and John Piper, stuff like that.
Yep, love it,
So,
man. Awesome. How can people get connected with Restoring Heroes Project? Can you just give them some info?
yes, so Restoring Heroes Project, the podcast is everywhere podcasts can be listened to. So that's a blessing.
Mm,
Like it's amazing. So and then so you just look up Restoring Heroes Podcast in your iTunes or your Google or Fish, whatever, all the things you call. So
it's everywhere.
and right everywhere. And then I have a YouTube channel, Restoring Heroes Project
Awesome.
on YouTube, and then um, Instagram, uh, Hero Stuff Bro, and
Awesome.
that's what I scream before the video.
Man,
So
I'm so
well,
sad I didn't get to hear it
yeah,
today. I'm gonna as soon as we're done, I'm going on your YouTube page and just listening to a couple. If and if you're listening right now or watching, you just need to just hit pause and go find James on Instagram or YouTube and listen to his intro. Because if that doesn't get you pumped up, man, then
Yeah,
I don't know, you're not breathing or something.
yeah, man. It's time for that hero stuff, and that's where I am. I really and I like doing these things with you guys, and the same goal,
Hmm.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm really nervous even about saying like I don't like even pumping my podcast because I want people to listen to you more. Like if they listen to me, that's cool. I don't need it. I don't. I love go out to you with you guys need to do, man. It's amazing what you guys doing at Man of Iron. Like
Appreciate
it's
that.
really cool, man.
Awesome. Yeah, we actually this year we just opened our second office in Canton, Ohio. I don't know how far Springfield is from Canton, but
Hours,
how long was that?
3 or 4 hours.
Okay. Okay. Well, if you're ever down for a road trip, our state director out there, Brian Ziegler, he's got a phenomenal story. He's a phenomenal man. I'm sure you two would love to connect, man. It'd be awesome. Man, it was an honor to have you. This was an awesome podcast. I can't wait. Just can't wait to get this out to the masses, man. Thank you again for just your
But I'm
passion.
interrupt for a second because
Yeah, go ahead, man.
um, one one guy that you did a podcast with, you gave him like a hat and t-shirts and all the other stuff.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You
Uh,
want some of that Men of Iron swag?
it's not. Is that not a thing? Can I not get swag, bro? Like, is that what you're saying?
Hey, trust me, man. I'm gonna connect after this and get your address and size, and we'll make sure you get some Men of Iron gear.
There we go. Okay, now we
Now we can close out, right? Oh, I love it, man. Well, thanks again, James. It's an honor to have you on the show, man. It was an amazing interview, an amazing talk, man. I love your heart for the Lord. I love your passion for seeing men lead with excellence, and with Jesus at the center. Just keep up the phenomenal work, man. We'll be cheering you on.
thank you, bro. Thank you for having me. I can't wait to do this again.
You
You can be
got it,
on my
man.
show next time.
Just I love it, man. We would love to be on. Yeah, just hang on for a second. I'm just going to wrap up here, and then I'll connect with you off air. For more info on the Men of Iron podcast, you can go to menofiron.org/podcast. You can find us on all podcast outlets, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you again to James Hall, our special guest today from the Restoring Heroes Project, and thank you to our sponsors, Manhood. We are out.